Okay, YouTube's telling me we're live. We're live. We're in this moment. We're talking. Let's have a conversation. And we're live.
And can you?
Yes?
And is my AC loud in the back?
It's audible, but it's not distracting.
Okay.
So, there are a lot of variables to this podcast I'm doing because this is the first time in a while where I actually have a structure to today's conversation.
Okay.
So, first off, how are you?
I'm fine.
You're fine? Just fine?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay.
I feel like I've been better, but I've been worse as
Okay.
well. So I feel like I'm just kind of steady right now.
Okay. It's good to hear.
How are you?
I am maybe operating just a little bit less than I would like to, because I got maybe 6 hours of sleep in total over the past 24 hours. But I'm still awake. I'm functioning, eager enough to talk to people, which I'm doing right now.
Compared to 8 hours, is that how much?
So let's say that, I have a bunch of questions prepared. I've prepared them since about 7 in the morning today. So I wrote down my first question in Google Docs at 7 in the morning while I did the laundry. That time I had, 2.5 hours of sleep. So I just wrote down a question so I wouldn't forget it. And then I took I don't know. I don't want to say a nap because I was in bed for 4 hours, just trying to catch up on sleep. And then I wrote the rest of my questions in the past 5 hours or so.
Gotcha.
So if I got more sleep, the quality of these questions would probably be better, and I'd probably have more questions, and address more aspects of what I want to ask you. But the stuff that I have to ask you it's not bad. Could be better, but
I'm sure they're good questions.
yeah. I hope so too. I hope so. So, just to preface, this podcast has more structure to it than the casual ones I've done in the past. This is more of an interview, rather than a direct conversation.
Okay.
So, what I'm trying to approach here is the method that other podcasters I watch approach their podcast. So, someone usually has this they put out this big piece of work, this profound piece of work, and all the podcaster does is simply ask them about it. So that's what I'm going to ask you right now. I am going to ask you about an event that took place this past week that I have attended, and I'm curious as to what went into this event. So, the way I see it, why this event was formed. So, I believe that your church in particular has an established sense of community. That was the word that I heard constantly throughout this event, and it's the word community. And I've seen this sense of community at your church, at another church, the Bethel Church, but unfortunately that sense of community is kind of lost at my church. There's a lot of dissension, conflict between generations at our church. There's a disconnect between a lot of our youth. We're not as intimate and spiritual as we used to be. And, I look to this event to kind of restore whatever disconnect I had in my youth during that time over the past few years. So, I believe, and this is just coming from my perspective as an outsider, so this event, basically, you have a sense of community within your youth, and of the objective of this event is to have kind of a greater influence of community. If that's safe to assume. So how you establish this greater sense of community, this greater influence of community, is that you reach out to people saying, "We want you in our community." You're not bounded by, the name of the church that you attend and worship at, but you just have this undying belief in community. Doesn't matter where you're from or whatever. It's just I'm using that word ad nauseum, but that's because that's the whole cornerstone of this event. This belief in community. And together as a youth, you organize events to bring people together, and thus creating LIFT, love and fellowship and trust. So, it's that methodology I adopted from another guy. I'll mention his name later on. That's not the important part right now. What is important is I want to ask you specifically about LIFT. So the first question I have is, I'm sure collectively your youth probably kind of decided that you guys want to pursue this event once it was brought up. But could you attribute this idea to a person who brought this event up first?
Oh, well, we wanted to do like a summer event. And I guess I would say that I brought the idea of summer games. So like that's what we kind of called it, like amongst the other leaders, but we called it summer games because we kind of wanted to create an event that was kind of like game heavy, like fun. I guess I was the one that like was like, oh, what if we did like something where like, we split up into teams and we just kind of like just have this event where like we play games and stuff like that. But then, we kind of talked about like making it bigger and having it be a multi-day event. And I feel like as a collective, we kind of created LIFT to what it was together. But I guess I was the one that kind of brought in like, having it be game heavy and having it be like that kind of event type camp-esque thing.
Okay. Oh. So I'm talking to basically the founder of the LIFT event. That's nice. That's cool. How long in advance did you plan this?
So it's kind of funny because the leaders right now, like it's like a whole new leadership, and so we planned this literally our first meeting as like this new leadership. And so it was back in like 2 months ago. I'm pretty sure it was a 2-month planning thing. And August, July, June, May, June, July. Yeah, probably June is when we first brought it up and stuff. But yeah, it was, I would say like around 2 months, pretty sure. Yeah, because it was kind of like early August.
Okay.
But 2 months, but it kind of felt more than that. But that was your question, right? How long did it take?
Yeah.
Yeah, around 2 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in those 2 months, how did you delegate responsibilities for this event? How did you decide who is in charge of what?
Right, so like we actually held a meeting every Tuesday.
Okay.
Every Tuesday, and we would like meet up in one place. And we also found that meeting in person, like, all of us used Discord, but we felt that having the meetings be in person, it felt more intimate in a way, and like it was just more what's the word, efficient, the way we like decided on things. But the way we kind of split up the roles was that I was I'm the young adult leader. So I kind of oversaw everything. But then within the leaders, we were like, okay, like we kind of separated like the different role slash tasks. So like we figured out like, okay, well if it's going to be game heavy, there has to be like people who are in charge of the games. There's a group of people that have to be in charge of the food. There have to be people. There's somebody that just has to be like media, like pictures and videos. And so we kind of like separated like the roles first, and then we kind of placed people into them.
Okay.
So, but yeah, no, it was the main ones were like food, the game people, budget people, somebody just taking pictures, somebody just taking videos. But yeah, and like in the meeting that we had, we were like, okay, well, like we know that in the meeting, like Noah and Jason felt that they had a bunch of ideas for the game, so we thought, you know, they would be good at handling the games, because they just had like so much ideas and stuff like that. But we kind of like placed people in a way that made sense because they would fit that role well, if that makes any sense.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, if that answers your question.
Okay. So basically, roles first and then people second.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But it was hard though because of our leadership and like how like it was kind of, there's only like 6 of us plus the advisors, but the advisors because there's 6 leaders and 2 advisors, but like some people had to like do 2 jobs at once. So like for me, like I had to oversee everything, and I was the food person. And like for example, Joel, he was like one of the budget people, but he was also the cameraman. So I don't know, in this we kind of like viewed this event as kind of like a trial and error, if that's the right phrase, or like our guinea pig. But we realized that like it actually takes a lot of people to like host an event. Anyways, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Solid response. Have you organized as in your youth? Has your youth organized events like these in the past? Sort of youth community events.
I don't know. I don't think at least our youth as a whole, like the Harvest Church youth, we have, but not with this leadership. But we have like years ago, like there was like this even more big event, but the thing is that the leaders back then were like adults, and like, you know, we were still kind of like young, still in youth, so like we kind of like didn't really acknowledge the whole like planning process and stuff like that. But with me at least in this leadership, this is kind of our first time doing this type of thing.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
But other than like yeah, actually I would say so, yeah, because COVID kind of you know, took a hit. So like that kind of washed away like a year or two, so that, but yeah.
Oh, okay. Actually, I just thought of this question on the spot. When did you guys get, maybe I missed this in your explanation, but when did you get elected as sort of a youth leader in your church?
Me?
Yeah. Or you and your contemporaries, I guess. Other people, other leaders.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure it was this year that the leadership we have is right now. I think like other than me, everybody is new,
Mm-hmm.
like with like a leadership role, at least a youth leadership role. I think this is everybody's first time to be a leader in this youth group. But I was, oh geez, I started off as like a secretary back in like 2017, maybe earlier. But that was like I was a secretary, and then I kind of like that was like that probably went on for like a couple years, and I think it was like 2020 that I was the youth leader. But I felt like you I couldn't really or we couldn't really do anything because of COVID. So like I feel like I wasn't really like a leader because COVID was in the way of that. But yeah, I guess it was like around 2017 for me. I was like, yeah.
Okay. Is there a process to being a leader at your church, or is it more of a you get elected, you have the title of a leader now?
Yeah, no, it was there's no real that's not really the type of thing. I feel like usually the pastors pick well, first they ask and you have to accept, but they kind of like see your you know, they like see how you carry yourself and like see like if they have like potential like leadership like qualities and stuff like that. But yeah, no, there's not really any like process or anything. It's just like you go in, or like if you're like elected, it's kind of like you learn as time goes on type thing. And that's what like advisors are for too, to like lead you in the right direction of like how to lead and be a good leader. So
Okay.
but yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Good to know. Oh yes, this is a big question. Can you walk us through communicating? And I know that this was a big kind of a, you know, as in this event is kind of distinguished by what you were able to bring to Lyft. Can you walk us through communicating with Foursquare and Pastor JJ and having her or inviting her to become a guest speaker at Lyft?
Yeah, well, so Pastor JJ was our guest speaker at a Lyft event, and she's from Foursquare. So basically, like, our church is under, like, it's under kind of like two branches. Like, we're a part of Get Better Eat, which is kind of like the Indo kind of, thing. But we're also part of, like, Foursquare, which is, like, an American, yeah, like, what's the word? I don't know what the word is, but yeah, no, we've been like our church as a whole have been like not partners. I don't know what the word is, but like we've been associated them for like a long time. Pretty sure like it was even like when when our church first started. So we've been with them like forever. But they, we've come to their events a lot, or numerous times. Like they also host camps and stuff like that, and like we've been to those as well. And they people from Foursquare also come to preach at our church. It's pretty common that it's not it's not really common, but like anyways, but it's not uncommon for them to preach at our church. But so we have a good relationship with them, and so Andre, one of our advisors, reached out to Pastor JJ by email, and he kind of described what our our event is, what our purpose is, and I'm pretty sure he sent the flyer too, just to kind of get so she knows like the general like idea of it.
Mm.
And he just asked her like if she was willing to come, um, share God's goodness, and she was able to speak at our event. And good thing, yeah, she said yes. So, and we kind of like talked, and we actually wanted, well, the idea of someone from Foursquare to talk at our event, because as much as, we love um, our youth pastor and our pastor, but there is a language barrier between, because, they're Indo and they're not, completely fluent in it. But we just thought that, we should just take advantage of the relationship that we have with um our partnership with the Foursquare, and to be like, oh yeah, we should definitely like reach out to them. And um and there's like a handful of people like around this area. And Pastor JJ she's like probably like I think she's from Mass, but definitely someone close to. So we reached out to the close people in this general area. But yeah, and we just like talked like, um, made sure if every like, what is that the right word? Accommodations. Like if we had to like think about like, would she have to spend the night? Like, we have to make sure that like somebody's there with her. But yeah, it all worked out, and she said yes.
That's good. Yeah. Did you have other choices in mind that could have spoken at the event besides Pastor JJ, if you remember them?
Yeah, there was like a couple. There's like Pastor Jesse. Um, there's a couple, but I can't remember off the top of my head their names. But they like live probably like an hour, 2 hours away from our general area.
Hmm.
So yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool. I will keep that in mind. Uh, so we have basically talked about your preparation and what happened kind of before the event. Now I want to ask you about the stuff that goes on during the event. So during the event, what were your active responsibilities?
What I'm responsible of?
Yeah.
Well, this whole thing was very like trial and error. Like this is really like our first time like kind of, doing this stuff. So as for me, um, as being the young adult leader, I like kind of like oversaw everything. But like I said, as although we have like a bunch of leaders, like a bunch of us had to like multitask. For example, like I had to I was in charge of the food. That was really the one thing that I was super focused on, is that like making everything was like okay and running smoothly. And like, in planning this event, like I would say that we were actually like I would say that we were pretty prepared because um, you know, we made like a whole rundown of everything and like the exact times of like when we do this, when we stop doing this, and we have like this whole Google Doc of like everything. So that was really helpful. But I guess my responsibility is making sure that we stay on track of those times, and keeping like our schedule like so we're not like late with anything. But also, I guess another responsibility um, is keeping everyone like safe. And I guess like one thing that I felt like that I like needed to, or like that I, for me at least, was like keeping everybody happy, like keeping everybody like okay, like, oh, so, like, are you good, and this goes, in with you say, also you saying like a sense of community. So that's one thing, is making everybody feel like not at home, but like comfortable at least. But yeah, no, other than that, it's um I was, like I said, I was managing the food part. So and we also had like I also had like two helpers as well. But there was other helpers though, but there was like two main ones. But also like making sure that all the food was ready. Um, and again, like we had like a set like schedule of like we pick up this food at this time, like somebody does this at this time, somebody does that at that time, and making sure just everybody stays on track. But also like making sure like the game people, which was Noah and Jason, I'll be like, okay, you guys good? You guys all set? Like and everything, and like also the praise and worship is because I was leading worship
Hmm.
for the second day as well, and I was like, I had to like calm myself. I was like, okay, like, and we also did like practice for the praise and worship, like starting from 2 weeks before, like making sure that everybody is at the right place or everybody is where they need to be on, and it's and so it's on time. That's not the way you say it, or like you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, just making sure that everybody was okay, everybody's staying on schedule. Um, and yeah, and just making sure that nobody is sad or unhappy. But and fulfilling everybody's what's the word? Needs in a way. But I guess that's really from me. Like I said again, like I was overseeing everything and also making sure the food was all set as well. But like I said, this is a trial and error. But I can definitely tell you right now that literally the food people has to be their own separate thing. Food is so hard to manage. Like even though like because we have like there was what I think there was like 35 people in total that came to lift. And honestly, like this whole event, it's like it just really showed us how stressful it is to like lead or like to host an event and lead people that are like sort of they're like teens, well not teens but like sort of on the younger side, and it's especially harder when everybody is your friend, which is a good thing, but it also like it's how do I explain this, it's harder to manage people that are your friends, if that makes any sense,
Yeah.
because they're
Yeah.
more easy to like, and nobody did this, but like they're more comfortable to like I don't know explain
Take
it, but
shortcuts?
it's not that. Mm,
Are they more comfortable, sort of? I think I know where you're coming from. Are they? I feel like you're saying that because that they're your friends, they're more comfortable to get away with things that they shouldn't.
yeah,
Yeah.
or like say things or like just kind of like act, but it's not like anything bad happened. It's just like I feel like things would be different if like an adult would like let it. If that makes any sense,
Hmm.
or like somebody that they have more respect towards. But no, everybody was great. But I guess I don't know. I just kind of gave off those vibes. Um, question again? Responsible for? Um, but yeah, that was pretty much it. Just making. I feel like if I had to like say like it, or if I had to like in one sentence, it would probably just to keep everybody like satisfied.
Okay. Okay. Did you ever have to make up stuff on the fly at the event, or was it mostly according to plan?
Oh no, definitely. Like we definitely like there are times where we're like, oh my gosh. Well, no, I feel like we were mostly on track for the whole thing, but there were some like mishappenings and stuff like that. So like, and we already knew this. Well, it's not that we knew that these situations would happen, but we kind of prepared ourselves to be ready to improvise when those unexpected things happen. If that makes any sense. So like not in every situation, but like, we thought about this. We're like, okay, what if people just do this? How can we improvise? Or how can we like be prepared and improvise in a way that like to solve that problem? If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we like prepared ourselves beforehand.
Okay. All right. I see.
But it's definitely a lot though. There was like this there was this one time where like it was towards like the end of the second day, and it was like it was a closing service, so it was like the end, and like I got like so emotional and like so like stressed, like I had like a breakdown. So definitely like planning events, especially for the first time, is like a lot. But I feel like as long towards the end, when we kind of asked people like how they feel, how they thought of the event, like, all the responses were positive. So I feel like that was kind of our main goal. So, which was good.
Yeah, you reached out to me about feedback. I forgot what I said. Do you remember what I said? I'm sure I said something positive, but I don't know the specifics of it.
I thought it was good. Yeah, I forgot the specifics, but I'm pretty sure, yeah, you said it went well. And I don't think everybody kind of said not the same thing, but everybody's like had positive things to say.
Okay.
But we did hear some, what's the word? Critical.
Criticisms?
Yeah. But like in a positive way. But they were like overall. So yeah. Okay.
Okay. Do you mind if I ask you what kind of criticisms about the event that those people addressed?
I'm pretty sure they I think I think this is I'm not sure if you said this. I think it was you who said it. To host it in a different location, like building wise. That was one thing, or yeah, that was brought up, but I'm pretty sure somebody else said that too. But just like host it in like a different location, different building. Which we like because honestly, like church was kind of like the cheaper option, and kind of like it was just, anyways. But yeah, that was a criticism. Another thing was I don't know if because I don't want to get, because we as the leaders talked as well, and also said like what can we do to improve. So I feel like I don't want to get like what the leaders said mixed up with other people said. But I think somebody said like, I think somebody did say something about like how we like manage things was kind of a bit messy at times. Like I'm pretty sure somebody said that. And I think somebody said something about the times we ate. Yeah, the times we ate.
That's it?
The times we ate, and like like for example, like the first day, like we ate at 1, and the dinner or lunch was at 1 and dinner was at 7. But they felt that those 2 meal times were too close together. It felt like they were still full from lunch, so they didn't like, when they ate dinner, like they were still full from lunch. which I guess is, I don't know. And I didn't really, really know what to say to them because I was like, well, it's still 6 hours in between. Like, I feel like
Yeah.
lunch is kind of normal and 7 is normal, but I don't know. But then again, it's maybe like, because literally, like, what happened was it was lunch and then games and then dinner. So maybe it just like kind of felt like weird, or like not a lot of time passing between when it really did. But yeah, that one person said that. Oh, I guess like the whole sleeping situation. I feel like we could have established, or just done managed that better. Um, yeah, I think that's it. At least from the top of my head.
Mm. Okay. Oh, okay. All right. So one thing I want to ask you about is this thing you guys did at the end of the first day called soap. I
Mm-hmm.
forgot what um I forgot
Yes.
what the what is it called?
Oh,
The
the
acronym
acronym.
was. Yeah. I think it's what? Application and prayer, but I forgot the first two.
Yeah, it's So yeah, it's called SOAP. And it's scripture, observation, application, and prayer.
Okay. Um do do you do you do that sort of activity with your youth often?
Yeah, that's what. So we have like we kind of separate our. So we have youth right every Saturday, and we kind of like switch between combined service and cell group. And cell group is a bit more intimate, and we do uh yeah, we do soap. Yeah, or like it's very common for us to do it. Um, yeah, we do that.
Mm, okay. Um so do you do stuff like Bible studies or whatever, right? In your service? Cuz that's what it felt like to me. Soap was a Bible study. Our church has done Bible studies in the past, and I was just kind of curious as to how frequent you guys do it. But I guess you do it
Yeah,
every service, every youth service or so.
yeah. So well, like our combined service, which we say combined is because we kind of separated our youth into youth, which is um, ages 9 to no 13 to 17, and then young adult is from 18 and up. And so when we have combined, everybody is together, and it's kind of like more of a service. So there's a preacher, and it's like like a full like praise and worship, and there's just one preacher that's preaching to us. But we have cell group, which is a thing that we kind of started, where it's separated. So the youth is with just the youth, and the young adults is with the young adults. But we kind of follow like the soap thing, where like it's like I said, it's more intimate. And at least how the young adult structures it is, we usually like sit in a circle like we did at Lyft. And we usually just sing one song, and then somebody is usually the one that leads it. Um, but it's more of like soap where it's a conversation,
Hmm.
and like kind of like obviously there's one person that leads it, but like we try to have it be like a conversation. Like that. So I guess like yeah, you would say like we would do it like every other week.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. Um, I've actually attended one of your youth services once. I think this
Yeah.
was back in oh, this was a while back. I don't remember if it was this year or last year, but I attended one of
Okay.
your youth services, just one.
Wait, when?
I don't remember. I don't remember if it was this year or last year, but
Do you know where?
it was at the church on a Saturday. Yeah.
Oh,
Um, but I can't tell you when. I can tell you that, yeah, no, I just wanted to tell you that I attended one of your youth services one time. Just that. Mm. Okay. So we've addressed what happened during Lyft. Now we're into the sort of open-ended uh, part of this sort of interview slash podcast where I ask you um, a little bit more uh, provocative and applicable questions. So the first thing I want to ask you is, um, what are the biggest things you learned from this event?
um, hmm. I would say, there's a lot of things I learned, but it would probably be like, be prepared to work with a variety of personalities. Because in planning with this event, like, obviously nobody is the same. And so there were some things like little stir-ups, if you will, especially when you're like your leadership is like, of, it's not just 3 people, it's like 6 people, even 8 people. So yeah, just like be prepared to like, or be prepared to, what's the word? Be prepared to like work with like various, personalities, and like, how can you work with them in a way that like keeps everyone, civil, and happy, to say the least. And it's important to, like, especially from like a leader's aspect, is to keep everyone like satisfied too. Um, um, but yeah, with a lot of personalities. Um, um, Sorry, suddenly my mind is going blank. I would say be prepared in general for a lot of different things. Um, like with this, we had like a meeting every week, and in every meeting it was like, it would like average like 2 hours or like even like more,
Mm.
and just like making sure that we're prepared with everything and every single detail, like, is, we have to know what we're doing, how we're doing it, and why we're doing it. So everything has a purpose. Um, but yeah, no, be prepared, because like sometimes like people join like, or have everything be well structured, because sometimes it was kind of messy in a way where some people would register last minute,
Mm.
and that kind of like skewed our um planning in a way, because for example, the game people, like, we have like last minute like 3 people come in, and like we were like, we we literally like figured out all the teams, so like, how do we do this, and like we had to change the teams like so many times, because like some people went in, some people went out, um and like, going to this event. So I feel like it's just, be like structured and like firm, um so like those like, because I feel like we were kind of like flexible in that way, of like people easily joining in and out. But I feel like I feel like if we have rules, then we have to like set those rules and not steer away from them. Because like there were times where like literally like last minute people joined in, but we couldn't really do anything about it because of something happened. But anyways, but yeah, be structured and follow the rules that we set. Um, I would say like honestly, like working in a team, I feel like making sure that everybody is heard, and at least like leaders wise, making sure that everybody is heard when preparing an event, and that voices don't go unnoticed. Wait, voices? Yeah, wait, don't voices don't go, yeah, voices don't go unnoticed. And I feel like when leading, you know, these group of 6 people, it's very important that, everybody, has a role. We don't want, you know, to make sure that everybody, has a purpose um into this event. Um so I feel like, yeah, that's one thing that I learned, is that just making sure that so I'm like terrible at explaining. Does this make sense so far?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I'm putting the pieces together, and it makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. But that's what, at least for like what I learned as like, in a leadership position, is just like making sure that, everybody feels heard, and stuff like that. What else? Hmm. But yeah, another thing, I'm pretty sure I already touched this before, but making sure that um being prepared and knowing how to improvise when those sudden things that you don't expect come up.
Mm.
Um and how can we, approach these how can we approach the participants in a way that, like, for example, like um there was one thing that happened with some of the participants where, like, they didn't follow the rules, um and it kind of, pressed, other people's buttons and stuff like that. And everybody was just like blah 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 blah. And like, we could have easily, like, kind of like let our emotions go out and like being like, why did you guys do that? Like, you guys shouldn't have done that, and just kind of lash out on them. But I feel like, it was important that, like, when these unexpected things happen, and I told them, I was like, when when you try to solve this conflict and approach them, how do I explain this? Like, the way that I approached them, or the way at least I tried to approach them, was like, hey guys, like, I know, like, blah blah blah, but like, you guys shouldn't have done it. Or actually, I approached them in the nicest way possible, and so that, like, there wasn't like any drama or anything. I'm sorry, I'm so bad explaining, but
It's okay.
does that make sense though? Like,
Yes.
approaching like approaching them in a way that, like, yeah, that won't cause drama or anything.
Yeah.
Um, because obviously conflicts do happen, and just even like stirring, putting more, what's the phrase? Like, adding fire to the,
Um, so I don't. I'm sure there's a. I'm gonna get it wrong, but I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
yeah. But that was, I felt like, was a big takeaway for me, at least, is like, when these conflicts do happen, is to keep calm and solve this conflict with grace and peace. Because that was the one, like, and because obviously, like, our purpose was like based on unity and community,
Mm.
and love, fellowship, and trust. And so I feel like, that ties it all back to them. Like, we're not gonna them, no, oh my gosh, no. But we're not gonna, like, raise even more conflict with them when, like, and it all worked out in the end, and there's like no bad things. It was not even like a super bad one, but like it was just a bad thing that we just. Anyways, but yeah. What else? The key takeaway of what I learned. Yeah, I guess like another. Yeah, I can't think of it at the top of my head.
Well, I think what you were trying to explain earlier, similar to I saw a video on Steve Jobs being asked a question at I think at a university or something, and one of the audience members asked him, "What's the most important thing that you learned from your time at Apple?" And this was decades ago, long before he passed away, when he still had hair. So the audience member asked him that question, and he was like, "Good question." And so he let that question marinate for about half a minute until he said, he was like, "I've learned to take a longer term view on people." And he said, "Instead, when someone does something wrong, instead of thinking, how can I fix the problem?" He's more like, "Okay, this person is struggling. What can I do to train them so that they not only they fix the problem themselves, but they learn not to do it again?" So I think what you're getting at is that you've taken this longer term view on people, in that you didn't immediately rush. What I perceive is that you didn't immediately rush to fix the problem. As in, oh, you did this wrong. I'm gonna fix this problem right here, right now. It was more of showing that. I'm trying to find the word. It's just the whole time I'm explaining this, I'm just thinking of Steve Jobs in a black turtleneck while I'm explaining this whole thing. It's just right there. But the point is that you've learned, your first instinct isn't to just go fix the problem. It's more of to teach them not to teach them, most importantly, to teach them, and hopefully they learn not to do something like that ever again or something. Because he was like, "Oh yeah, we're building a team that's going to last for years and decades to come." And you know, I really have to go back to that talk, but I think just comparing Steve Jobs to your situation, that's what I thought of, and I think that's what you were trying to get across, as a takeaway from this.
Yeah, cause like it's like I feel like the word, it's like character. Who are we to like lash out on people? And I feel like that's like one thing that I told the other leaders as well, is because in this whole event, like we're setting an example, or like we're kind of representing our church, representing our youth, so we kind of like want to be as respectful and as responsible as possible. And I feel like, showing our good character onto others, I feel like when I approach them, hopefully, in a good way, that, they will reciprocate it back to me.
Mm-hmm.
And, it overall be like easier to work with them and stuff like that, and kind of like gain their like it's a two-way respect street. But yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, simply put, I agree. Um, if I if I were to ask you ultimately, um, why did you set up this event?
Because first we really wanted to do something for the summer. We wanted to do something big for the summer, which kind of involved more than just youth. We wanted to reach out to like other youths because, you know, I'm sure we both know that the Indo community in New Hampshire is quite unusual,
Unusual.
unusually more than you would expect it to be. The Indo, the amount of Indos churches here. And so, we like, there's been, youth Indo functions where it's like, from other churches, come to one. There hasn't been a long time. So I guess maybe that's, um, why we wanted to make this event. Because obviously, like, we have other Indo friends, for example, me and you,
Hmm.
like we have like a bunch of like people our age and stuff like that. So it'd be really cool if we like kind of made an event that we could invite them to. But also like um I feel and I'm sure like my youth feels is that we have that sense of community and within our youth. And it's just nice to kind of share it with other youths as well, to share that kind of like loving energy. That sounds so cringe, but like kind of have that like community feel with like not just our youth, but with other local church groups.
Yeah, I figured, yeah. I mean, I showed up. Clearly, there are other churches not from Harvest that showed up, so mission accomplished in that respect.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Yeah, no problem. I'd go again next year, even. It's just,
Nice.
I saw, it's just, I have a few
Uh-oh.
questions. Not just about this event, but about your youth in general. Um,
Okay. Dun, dun,
how?
dun.
Oh yeah, were you gonna say something? Or you
No.
just doing the little finger dance? But how has the pandemic affected your relationship with your youth?
Not. I feel like we're the same.
Really?
Yeah. I would say, I feel like it was more towards everybody. I feel like if anything, COVID impacted like each individual person, but I don't think it impacted us as a whole because with this, with COVID happening, obviously, it was a very troubling times. But I feel like um we still kept our youth going. So like every Saturday, like we would do like a Zoom call,
Mm,
um, and
wow.
stuff like that. And like, a bunch of us use Discord. Like we had like Discord calls, but also like, and we try to make it fun too. So like we would do like, the Discord calls, but also like do like games on the Discord, online games and stuff like that. So we tried not to like just because COVID happened doesn't mean that we kind of have to like steer away from like still coming together and stuff like that.
Mm.
So we still had youth, we still like interacted amongst, on the internet, thankfully. But yeah, and like even after, and I'm sure there were quiet times where like, um, you know, everybody wasn't as active, because I'm pretty sure like even when we had youth, like not everybody would join, you
Mm.
know. But it was important that we like still stayed in touch with everyone. Um, but no, yeah, and I'm sure like everybody, had their own things going on. But once we kind of like once COVID started, to die down a bit, like it just, just when we did see each other again, we were like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen you forever, and like it was like, there was comfort in that. So, but yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. Um, you have, I think, a few members of your youth who are, let's say they're a little bit older than, say, I don't know, a majority. Um,
Mhm.
would it be safe to call them millennials in that respect?
Mm, I don't know. I don't think so.
Hmm.
Not the way that they act, at least. No, just kidding. I would say like they're definitely on the older side, though. Yeah.
So I'm wondering if there's ever been a a generational disconnect in your youth between, say, millennials and Gen Z, and even the the new generation Alpha, even if there's a
Right.
disconnect between them.
I think that there used to be,
Mm.
and this was like even before COVID, but it was still when like the people my age, were still so young. But as time kind of went on, like there was this one specific moment where it was just a really troubling time for youth.
Mm.
Um, Not because of like trauma or anything within our youth, but it was because of like kind of like life stuff. But I feel like that kind of brought us together in a way. It was like, I don't know how to explain it, but there was like this troubling time, and it was when like there might have been a possibility where like some people would have to move and stuff like that. And so that kind of brought us really close
Mm.
because there was like the environment was kind of like, this is kind of our last, chance to, really be together and stuff like that. So that was when like we really like became close.
Mm.
That was when like me and my friends or like my, close aged friends, started becoming closer with the older people.
Mm.
Um, um, but maybe it was a blessing in disguise, but nothing bad really happened. But then we kind of just, like gotten closer ever since. And like as time goes on, like we kind of see each other in like a family sort of way. Like, for example, like with me and my brother, like we're 4 years apart. He's 4 years older than me.
Mm.
Um, but like if I maybe this is not a good way to compare it, but that's how kind of I compare it. But like I see him, like if I hang out with him, like I'm totally fine because I see him as like a brother. I don't really think of it the age. And so like we would always, every weekend we would, the youth would always hang out. And as we start to like build that bond over time, because like we see each other so often and because we hang out with each other so much, we kind of like see each other as family. And so I feel like at this point, like, I kind of really don't see age. Wait, no. Well, not like we're not. What's the word? It's not as. What's the word? It's just from your point, or like from an outsider's point of view, like, that might be kind of like, oh, you know, that seems kind of weird, but like how when or from our perspective, it's like if I was talking to like an older, one of the older people, like it's like talking to like my brother, for example. Like
Mm.
there's really no weird like thing with it. If that makes any sense. But anyways, yeah, as time goes on, our bond kind of becomes like family. So we don't really there isn't really that age boundary. And I feel like the older people at least, um, you know, the older people at least, and they're like super inviting too. Like they're, as my, when I say like we see them as older, as like my older siblings, I'm pretty sure like they see us as their younger siblings as well. So, um, and they're very like, how do I explain this? The older people, yeah, we kind of see them as like people to look up to.
Mm.
So like that's kind of the relationship. And like when we talk, it's like, yeah, it's like normal how you talk to people. And again, we don't really see that thing because we're just um around each other so often.
Mm.
But obviously, there are times where we do have those moments where like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that you're like X amount years younger than me, X amount, older than me.
Mm.
But you know, like but I don't know, we've all just kind of like just the amount of time we've over time, like the way we've bonded kind of like blurs that kind of line.
Mm.
Um, because like we tell the same jokes, tell the same stories, and so and honestly, there's like there's a good thing about having like various ages as well. Like it's not everybody's not just one age. I feel like there's that sounds so cringe, but there's like I don't know how else to explain it though. But like I think it's kind of better that way, having like various ages and stuff like that,
Mm.
because you can like learn from people, take away from other people, and yeah.
No, that's good. That's both interesting and good to hear. So I'm glad that your youth has kind of transcended age boundaries and generational boundaries. Um, not to play victim here, but um, that sort of connection isn't uh, as prominent at our church as we'd liked.
Mhm.
So it's nice to observe and learn from other youth, which is why I asked that question. So it's good.
And
Yeah.
no, sorry. No, but honestly, like I feel like, honestly, like I'm very thankful of the community that we have. But I feel like maybe we're just like lucky too. But one thing is that like with us, like if people like tend to steer away from like where there's like problems caused in youth, like we try to resolve it.
Mm-hmm.
Try to resolve it, and like if people steer away, we try to like approach them being like, hey, or like at least like if we notice that they like stop going to youth, we like reach out to them being like, hey, like how are you, like, oh, we're coming youth or whatever. But like and sometimes things happen, but we try to like we always want to keep in good terms with everyone.
Hmm.
And I feel like it's important keeping those like that good energy. But our youth is not perfect too. Like there are times where like we had like problems too, but it's all really just like friendships. It's how friendships work.
Okay. Okay. Also, at any point, if you have a question for me, please ask me questions if they're absolutely burning in your soul. I'm more than happy to ask questions that you might be inquiring. Um, do you observe or even participate in events organized by other churches? Often? I'm sure you do, but how frequent do you do it?
Um, like specifically like church events in general, or just like I'm directed towards like youth.
Yeah, it's sort of those youth community events from other churches and the like.
Mm, I don't think I've been to one in a long time. At least like I'm pretty sure like the last one that I've been to was like pre-COVID. Um, yeah, for like a youth thing. But yeah, no, not. I think recently, in the past couple of years, I don't think I've been to any. Have you? Well, you went to lift, actually.
You know, I've been to yours and let's see here. I've had my fair share of attending events from other churches. Um, Mostly because my parents have connections to the people at the other churches. But in terms
Mm,
of me, even just getting together with other youth, I find it more frequent among you guys, the Harvest and Bethel people, than my own, quite frankly.
mm,
And at this point, um, I've kind of considered the Harvest and Bethel youth as sort of like an equal family to my own youth, because that's how often I communicate with you guys. That's how often I hang out with you guys. Have a
mm.
lot of fun with you guys. Um, Whether you want to call me a Harvest Youth member, that's up to you. Um, but in terms of youth, strictly organized community events, um, the Lyft is the first one in recent memory. I don't know about the past, but I've hung out with Harvest and Bethel, plenty of times. When it comes to those events, rather, they're like special occasions to me. I try not to pass up on them, at least when I'm invited. I like to go to them, so I like hanging out with people. I like being around people. Um, I have a few questions about that I missed earlier. I have a few questions about Pastor JJ's speech itself. First off, how much of her speech did you capture, or you actively listened to?
Okay, please don't take this the wrong way,
I
but I missed a lot of it. I missed like 99% of it because, um, yeah, like 99% of it because I had to take care of other things
okay.
that was outside of the room. Yeah,
Um,
but I
what do you say?
heard that it was good.
Hmm. Who did you hear? Oh, yeah, that's a tricky question. Um, yeah. So the feedback on her speech. What kind of feedback did you get? Um, from people that communicated with you. Did they say anything about, or what types of things did they say about her, her speech? If there's any comments in particular.
Yeah, no, they said that it was, really good. The way that she spoke was, really good. And kind of the topic, the way she kind of executed her message, um, was good.
Mm.
And yeah, that she was she's a good speaker. Um, mm, and yeah, the message, um, yeah. But at least like the most person that I've heard from of like what they thought about her sermon was you.
Really?
Hmm.
As in that gave the most feedback or praise or
Yeah.
comments about it? Interesting.
Hmm.
Yeah. No, I just I felt like you know, if there was one thing, um, well, yeah, there are two big things that I would take away from that. One, just being together with youth, and two, Pastor JJ's speech. And I've already said this to you in person. She is the most compelling public speaker. Well, not public, but most compelling speaker that I've heard in recent memory. Um, I I did not. I was not tempted to even touch my phone once during her speech. It was more towards the end where it was like, "Oh yeah, what time is it? Oh wow, so much time has passed since then." But
Hmm.
I just cannot give her. I'm sure she gets praise all the time, but I cannot give her enough praise for the message, even if other people weren't actively listening during it. It's just that you know when you have people talk about God and whatever. I'm sure a lot of people that we know are like, God, not again. It's God. But I have learned to listen to her speech from a realistic perspective rather than a religious perspective. As in, um, but also a lot of the stuff that she said was more realistic than religious. As in, she talked about how we are so comfortable with ourselves. We're so comfortable with being selfish. It's the ideal to be selfish. She talked about that. Um, she also mentioned that the generation after us, Generation Alpha, is the least spiritual, the most selfish, and I want to say the least ambitious generation that we may encounter in our lifetimes. Generation Alpha, according to Pastor JJ, haven't done research on this yet, also will be the largest generation in human history, projected to be 2 to 2.8 billion by some year. I don't remember. Um, but knowing that, knowing those sort of statements about Generation Alpha, what do you make of those statements? Because I know you have a younger brother that is a part of that generation, and what are you compelled to feel once you hear words like that from Pastor JJ?
Um, I wouldn't, cause like I don't know, cause I feel like it's less. spiritual, I feel like I can't get like a general point of view on it because all the little kids that I know, like I literally teach them in Sunday school, so like obviously they're spiritual. So I feel like in that topic, I feel like I can't have I feel like it's harder to make it's harder to make a decision if I agree on that or not. Wait, that's the question that you're asking, right?
Yeah, as in, you know, knowing what Pastor JJ in particular
So,
said,
mm,
and knowing that you're kind of you've kind of studied almost, you know, children in that generation, and knowing that you have a family member who is a member of that generation. I'm just wondering what how are you what are you compelled to feel when statements like least spiritual, most isolated, least ambitious. What do you feel? What are you compelled to feel when those statements are labeled as part of that generation?
um, I wouldn't, at least for like ambitious. It's hard because like, hmm, I feel like with those like negative like things, of her saying that, I feel like there's some truth to it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of like I kind of want to force myself not to think that's true. Um, but I can see why she says that because at least like looking at my brother, like I could definitely tell from like you know, his age and like the people like around his age, like they're very like fixated on technology and in a way that like if you compare it with like at least like people my age and like how we kind of grew up, like how we grew up and how we how you compare it with them, like my little brother's always on his like I don't know, I could just tell that like his friends and his with this age, like they're so like they're very much in the media in comparison to like with people my age at their age, if that makes any sense.
Mm.
Like I wasn't on the same for example, he's on the same apps that I am.
Mm.
Well, when I was his age, I wasn't on the same apps.
Mm-hmm.
At least not to that like extent, I feel like. And I feel like they have so much more no, they have so much more access to like internet or like the media sort of things, and like it's both good and bad. I feel like one can be very like smart in a way where they have like that much they can learn a lot of things, especially with the internet. Like it's so much faster to learn things. But I feel like with like with watching and games and all that stuff, I feel like I don't know, I feel like it's, for example, like at dinner tables, like this is so bad, but I don't think Joseph, that's my little brother's name, I don't think we could eat dinner at a restaurant if he didn't have his like phone or iPad.
Mm.
But yeah, no, I feel like they're really fixated on the media and like yeah. But I don't know. But then again, like you saying, like she said that like they're not as ambitious though. I don't know because at least in comparison to my little brother Joseph, he's like he's really big into sports, and he's always like looking up like soccer tricks, or like he's always looking at like things that he can learn from like the media as well. And like he's always saying how like he wants, to be a professional basketball player, professional like soccer player. And I think that he has his goals set, and like he's very ambitious in that sense. But yeah, in terms of my little brother, but there, yeah. Sorry, was I rambling, or was that?
No, you answered that actually. Yeah, you answered that pretty sufficiently. What I got was that he, despite being labeled as that generation, he still has aspirations. That's basically what I'm getting. He's not really without purpose, technically, at the moment. So, um, that's good. Um, I have also questions I just came up with on the spot. I have a few personal questions about you and your family, if that's okay with me to ask.
Okay.
So being the, collectively being children of a pastor, are you expected to behave or even perform at a different standard than what you would perceive as normal?
Yeah.
In what ways?
I feel like, my upbringing was definitely like, that I've been told kind of different, because like, you're being told these things, so like, oh, like you're the pastor's kid, like you have to act this sort of way, you have to, um, carry yourself, a specific way, how you interact with people, how, other people see you, and, yeah, how you like set an example for others. And like, there are times where like you kind of have to like step up to the plate. Like, for example, like I started like leading worship like when I was fairly young, like in front of the stage and stuff like that. And it's just like those things, like leading, um, you know, for example, leading worship earlier, or like being a young adult leader, and just doing, church related tasks. Like, you kind of have to like step up to that plate and like do it. um, but yeah, no, definitely like act a sort of way, and I feel like people, once you have that label put on you, you kind of like, people kind of already have, um, people already have like, how do I explain this? People like, when you have that label, people already, their mind is set on what kind of person you are. If that makes any sense. Does that make sense? Like, for example, if if one is Asian, well, this is kind of stereotypical, but they're supposed to be really smart. So, for example, like with being like a pastor's kid, what you instantly think is, they're supposed to act this sort of way, and they're this and they're that. So people kind of already like have this image in their mind of you.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah. So knowing that, you know, kind of the outside image. I'm curious also about the external image, I should say. I'm curious about the internal image you have. As in, how are you compelled to behave to a different standard within your family? As in, what are expectations your family has for you, um, knowing that your parents are religious and whatever, you know. Yeah.
wait, so like specifically with my family?
Yeah. If at
Um,
all.
like it, no, right. I mean, it's the same thing. Like, how I'm supposed to act, how I'm supposed, like, you know, when people see me, like, obviously, like, how I'm supposed to act, how I'm supposed to interact with it. Not interact with other people, but yeah, I guess, like, you know, how I interact with people. Um, Probably like my social media presence. Um, and yeah, and again, like stepping up to the plate because like I had to, obviously I've been given the gift of singing on key. So and so like being able to like lead worship when like I was literally like 16, I think. And to be a youth leader, um, and to kind of step up to that plate, even though like if it may seem that you're not ready for it. Yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, like if I, go in more detail, for example, like how I behave, you know, I feel like there's this, reputation that you kind of have to uphold.
Mm.
Um, being the, pastor's kid, and like, how you interact with people. So like, for example, like on a Sunday, how you greet people and actually greeting them, that's a problem that I actually have is not greeting people.
Mm.
It's because I don't know, I feel like, sometimes I get like sort of tense and I have this like anxiety. And it's a lot like handshaking so many people, but because in a way, like for example, if like I shake one person's hand and I don't shake another person's hand, that person might think like, why is she acting like that? You know? Um, because I feel like Indos are just that petty. But um, no, yeah, definitely in like how I behave, and this especially with like the adults, the Indo adults, um, because I feel like they again like they have this kind of like image, for me at least, or with any pastor's kid, is that they're supposed to be good. They're supposed to set an example. Um, because and there are times that like people would like complain about me, and it's just Indo drama, but um, but yeah, no, like people have eyes on you, so and people are like not afraid to like gossip or like you know tell it to even my parents too and be like "Meh." But upholding that good reputation, um and I keep saying this, but stepping up to the plate, um pastors can um pastors, but yeah, I think that, yeah.
Okay. It's you know, it's it's unfortunate to know that, you know, Indo drama is no stranger to other churches. It's just more it's more apparent at ours because, you know, there's just the biggest sort of controversies that our church has been caught up in were kind some were superficial, but yeah, I'm just gonna stop it there. A lot of some of the biggest controversies are superficial things, and yeah, that's it. I was gonna say some more serious stuff, but those are serious stuff. Some of the stuff that we get caught up in at our church are kind of superficial, if I'm being honest. But, um, uh, yeah, um, um,
It's like, yeah, because I don't even know. I don't even know if it's like, I don't know. It's just Indo. I feel like Indo church drama is just not uncommon. It's not uncommon.
yeah, and strangely, ironically, even it's kind of you know, it feels like what they're doing is sort of the opposite. All right, I'm going to use a big word here. Even the antithesis of what a church should be, because it's all about this united belief in God and whatnot, and then I just get sort of annoyed and frustrated that there's this dissension here that shouldn't exist, but unfortunately it has. And I'm a little bit powerless to stop it, but haven't been to a service from our church in months. So at this point, the four youth leaders at our church, former youth leaders, we've all decided to leave the church to their vices, and we resigned as youth leaders, and we were like, you know what, this is their problem now. Don't want anything to do with this drama. So, feels like once we resigned, and nobody reached out to me about it. Not even before we resigned or after we resigned. Nobody reached to us about it. Well, one person in particular, but did. But generally, the rest of the congregation didn't reach to us about our involvement with the church. So you just put the nail in the coffin once we resigned. We didn't really feel like we were there anyway, so might as well make it official, sort of thing.
Hey,
Yeah.
sorry to hear that.
Yeah, no, it's not. I'm not. I don't think it should be mistaken that I am asking these questions about your youth because I'm envious of your youth, but rather, your youth has set an example that we would like to emulate. But you said that it takes a while for that sort of trust and fellowship to build. And that's quite frankly a path that our youth needs to go down. We need to take those years to reunite and become and proudly associate ourselves as Martyria Presbyterian Church youth. Because at the moment, I feel like Harvest Youth, I feel like Bethel Youth, whatnot. But yeah, that's the current situation at our church.
And honestly, I feel like, it's important to take into account that, it's not your guys' fault, too. That, maybe, your youth group kind of, is not, as one anymore. But, things happen, and honestly, not every youth is the same either. So, maybe, this will kind of be your blessing in disguise, and, And you know, and it doesn't mean that it has to take you know years to accomplish
Mm.
you know something. But I feel like it's also important, like if you guys want to like build a community, it's like I feel like it's important to like takes like take action too, and like you know how can we build a community, because I feel like for us at least, like maybe it's because you know my me and my brother, not Joseph, Josh, are so like vocal with it
Mm.
to my parents,
Okay.
because we're like if you know if we because that's the thing too, like my my parents, like I feel like they appreciate the youth
Mm.
and they show it, and I feel like you know, and we you know we try to be vocal with them and be like, you know, this is you know good for the youth, and we kind of like you know how do I like explain this? But I feel you know this takes time too. But I feel like it's maybe it's because we have that connection with the pastor as well. Is that like they kind of give us opportunities, you know, to bond as well. For example, um, like they'd be like, okay, youth is in charge of the decorations, and so like they'd give us these like certain tasks where is also an opportunity where the youth can bond and build that relationship as well. And one thing is that like it's just like figuring out ways where like you know the youth can become closer. So for example, like at least with our youth, is that having everybody come to church, or having everybody you know go to Sunday service. And I feel like one way that we've like, and it's not because, you know, this is not because of like tricking. No, it's not tricking people at all. But we have like this, you know, the sound system in the back, and there's like multiple roles that have to be that are in the back. For example, there's like cameramen, and there's lighting, and there's the director, and there's the sound system, and there's multimedia. And like if you see in our Sunday service, like there's like probably like 10 people in the back, and it's all youth. And so like we create these roles that the youth like that the youth do that the youth do no wait that the youth does. Anyways, you know what I mean. But that kind of like also like makes them come to church as well, if that makes any sense.
Mm.
But like um you know, for example, like yeah, if that makes sense. So like for example, for one person, like I'm not saying that this is true, but like for example, you know, I feel like maybe if this person didn't have that job, then maybe they wouldn't go to church.
Mm.
If that makes any sense. And so I feel like that's also really important, or that's I feel like I've noticed is that because we have those jobs for the youth to do, is that they're able to come to church. And like at you know, and even if they like during the sermon they like look at their phone, or like they're not paying as attention, at least they're there. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? And so like I've talked to you know I've heard my brother talk about this, and I've heard like my brother talk about this with my parents and stuff like that. But like it's giving them the opportunity to come to church and at least have it, you know, to be in that sort of space. And again, like this is constantly like bonding with the youth as well. But yeah, so like now like honestly the whole youth runs the whole thing. Um, with like a production at least. And also, you know, musicians as well. A good handful of the musicians are the youth, so it's just kind of like we create those roles so that the youth and again like, and I'm sure like the pastors, like they really like, you know, you could tell that they take pride, not to say they take pride in like the youth. And like when we like, for example, if we did a really good job on like, the lift event, they're like, you guys did a great job, like they make sure that we don't go unnoticed. Which I bring that up because I feel like that was one thing that you said, is that like, when you guys resigned, like nobody reached out to you guys, you know what I mean?
Mm.
And stuff like that. So I feel like maybe it's just building that. And I feel like they know, because I feel like, honestly, like, it is very important to build a relationship with the younger generation, though, because that's kind of like the next generation of your church, you know what I mean?
Mm.
So, like, I feel like in general, with like all churches, I feel like it's important to build that relationship with the younger people, because that's basically like your next kumbaba kum ibu.
True. Yes.
But yeah.
I like the lingo you put in there. Familiar with that lingo. But yeah, I like this talk about church and youth and spirituality and whatnot. But and it's great hearing your insight as the chief organizer of Lyft, and trying to establish this sense of community, and me learning that this whole thing is in essence years of just putting faith in each other to I don't know, to just accomplish things. You get stuff done because you trust each other. That's what I got in essence, and it's years of that. And the Lyft event is basically just, you're showing that you guys can work together. So the Lyft event and perhaps other events in the past, that's just evidence that you guys are able to work together to accomplish what you want. So, yeah, I will probably use you guys as an example often if I'm asked about our situation at our church with our youth, and I will more than likely refer to you guys as the standard. So, thank you for setting that standard, and thank you for keeping that standard. That's the most important part.
And honestly, I feel like, yeah, it's very important to like know that also, like, with everything, like goes at their own pace. I'm sure that there was a time where your youth was like had more unity than us. You know what I mean? So I
Sure,
feel like
sure,
it's
yeah.
really all about like time and like kind of how time goes. And I always tell my brother this, but I feel like this is kind of our youth's peak. Like this is where like we all get along, everybody like, I feel like, I try to tell myself and other people that like we have to take advantage of these good times,
Mm.
because you never know what will happen.
Mm.
And like, it can't stay like this forever. So honestly, you never know what's gonna happen, for your youth as well. So
That's true. Yeah. Um, I just need to see it. Just need to see it. I trust something's going on behind the scenes. If there is, I haven't been made aware of it, but I'm sure they're fixing whatever problems that they have. But yeah, um, but yeah, God and Jesus and youth and whatever aside, I want to segue into something probably more relatable to a, a more general audience. Exactly 1 week from today, which is now Monday, the 22nd, exactly 1 week from today, the fall 2022 semesters for both, UNH and the whole community colleges of New Hampshire begin. And I'm curious, what are your thoughts? Well, first of all, you're still enrolled at UNH, are you? Yeah. So what are your thoughts entering this basically your second year at UNH?
I'm just peeing my pants.
Oh, really?
I guess no. I'm like I have to mentally prepare for that. But this year is I can tell it's definitely gonna be different. I'm not dorming this year. I'm staying at home. So I'm commuting. Which I feel like my days are gonna be definitely different. Compared to last year's. But yeah, no. I am just, I feel like I'm not excited. I feel like I'm gonna find comfort in like having a structure in my day. As much as I like summer, I like when I'm being productive and there's structure in my day, so it doesn't feel like I'm not doing anything. Yeah. But I'm also like again peeing my pants everywhere because I don't know, staying focused on like school, and there's like this one class that I'm taking this semester that like everybody says it's like one of the hardest classes. But yeah, and I just hope it all goes smoothly, but I just know it isn't, so I just have to mentally prepare myself for it. But yeah, and also just like keeping like positive vibes too, and just like not over stressing myself and overthinking, and just yeah, and also keeping like work and school balance, or like just making everything balanced in my life.
Okay, yeah.
Makes sense. But yeah, that's my. What about you?
So, like you, I also like to, well, at least and it's a little unfortunate that it's a little late for me to adopt this, but, kind of tooting my own horn a little bit. But as of late, I've started to become more, I feel I'm more serious about my schoolwork than I have been in recently past years.
That's good.
But then, I took one summer class, and I ended that class with, I think, a 97% average. But that's because I was capable of doing that, and my 8th grade year is the evidence. I achieved those sort of grades when I was 13, 14, and getting back into that rhythm of being serious about my schoolwork. It's nice. It gives me purpose during the day. And then I think about multiplying that by 4 during the semester. I'm like, maybe do I have to settle for 90%, 85%, whatever? It's just a habit I picked up again in recent times. And for this fall semester, I'm worried about how much time I have to dedicate to my subjects to get the results I want. Because over the summer, I dedicated maybe outside of class, maybe 1 or 2 hours a day to that one summer class, which, led to a 97% average. Um, and also, like you, I am worried about how long it will take for me to find balance throughout the semester. Um, so the summer class I took was, it's called General Chemistry 2. Um, as as you can tell, it's a science class. Uh, rarely is there open-ended questions and whatever. It's all rooted in nature, in facts. So there, not much room for error in that regard. So I'm taking a lot of science-based courses for the fall semester. Um, uh, and I have another worry about the fall semester is that right now I am only technically registered for 2 classes right now instead of 4. And, uh, it's the other 2 classes that haven't been registered. It's something about, transfer credit and prerequisite error and whatnot. And, you know, um, we're still trying to get that sorted out. It kind of, no, not even kind of. It left our family a little paranoid in that, my parents are asking me daily about updates from Great Bay and whatnot to see if my schedule's been updated. Even today they asked me about this sheet here. I don't know what I can show on stream actually, but they asked me about this sheet here with my classes on it. And I just they just keep asking me about, oh yeah, guys, is your schedule updated? And I'm like, no, not yet. Wait for the appointment on Thursday. I'm talking about it with my advisor. So it's just a lot of stress right now trying to get an additional 2 classes into my schedule for the fall semester. And I feel kind of the opposite about having fewer classes. I feel like for me, it's sort of wasted potential if I'm capable of taking 4 classes, and if I can only settle for 2, I feel like, no, I'm wasting time. I don't want to take classes over the summer again. So if I had to summarize that into 2 aspects, one is I'm worrying about time, how much time I have to dedicate to get the results I want, and 2, ensuring that I actually get the classes I want to take next semester. So, summarize those 2 aspects. I'm not worried about payment and whatever, because fortunately I have a safety net for my parents to help me pay for that. So that's out of the equation. Anybody who doesn't have that safety net has my sympathy. But that's the general concern for the fall semester so far. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like honestly trying not to think about it.
Well, it's weird. I don't know how many people take up on this opportunity, but some days over the summer, I went into my Discord server, and I did 3 things. I entered a voice channel, deafened, with my camera on, and streaming my screen, in hopes that somebody else that's trying to get their work done could just enter the voice channel, see that I'm doing my part to ensure that I get the results I want, and hopefully that will inspire someone else to do the same thing. So that's something that I've been doing a little bit to try and help people go places. Just being in there. I feel like I'm inspired by just being in a channel when somebody's doing work. I'm inspired just being there, not even doing anything, just being there. I I'm inspired. Yeah. A lot of people reach out to me for help with what, math, or English, or whatever, and I help them. I make it my mission to help them whenever I can. So that's the plan, and that's the concern for the next semester. Yeah.
Yeah, that just brings me back. Yeah, I've honestly so much people to like give my thanks to, because I don't think I would have. I don't think like last year I asked so many people for help for classes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, shout out to you for helping me on so many things, for real though.
I'll do it again. I have no problem taking time out of my day to help someone if I'm not doing anything.
I feel like that's one thing that I need to work on, is like just like staying motivated, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I feel like this year will be different.
How? In what way? What? Or let me ask you this: what changes are you looking to apply this year that you haven't last year?
Staying more motivated, and actually setting aside time to do work, because I feel like when I was dorming on campus,
Mm-hmm.
it was very much like I go to my class and I literally like, and then I just walk back to my dorm,
Mm.
and like I'll just like be in my room and like take a nap or something. But I feel like I'm not able to do that this year. So like in my time in between classes, like I'll be like at the library or something
Oh, okay.
and like work on stuff. So yeah,
Mm.
like I don't have that choice of like walking back to my dorm and like taking a nap. Like I actually have to go somewhere.
Mm. Hmm.
But yeah,
That's interesting. Yeah, I've always wished, kind of dreamt of doing that once I get to UNH. As in, my brother has a job now, so he's out of the house more often. But a lot of times when I sit down with obligations to do my work and whatever, he's back there just doing his thing, kind of hollering and whatever. I honestly didn't expect for him to get a job this early on. I was hoping to wait until I got to UNH next year for that to happen. But I guess the earlier the better. Gives me more focus during the day. But yeah, during the day, when I'm done with class, I've always dreamt of going to the library at UNH or something and just sitting there for hours grinding out work. I feel like this is paradise. This is how I get work done, sort of thing. But we'll see. I actually might take a class at UNH for the fall semester. Just one though. It's my advisor told me that Intro to Chemical Engineering is normally taken at UNH. Also kind of offered at Great Bay, but she told me she strongly recommends that I take it at UNH because the people at Great Bay don't like the pre-recorded UNH lectures. She said it didn't go very well last year when our students were given pre-recorded UNH lectures. And I'm like, I guess I'll take it at UNH, but who knows? Might be a good thing. It's just another location to go to during the week, but we'll see. We'll see. Yeah. Yeah. College is weird.
it is weird.
Yeah. It's so... it's so I don't know. We'll have to see. I was gonna bring up sort of um sort of the relationships you make at Great Bay versus UNH,
Yeah.
because is it more of an in and out thing for you, as in you go to class and then right after you go back to your dorm or something, or do you hang out in between classes or something like that throughout the day?
Yeah. Like sometimes I guess like yeah, it'd be common if I like hung out like mostly like in the afternoon, but like probably not like morning classes or like night classes, but like yeah, like if I end class, or like if I have the same class as my friend and we're in class, we're like, oh, do you want to get lunch after?
Hmm.
Um, or like, oh, like do you just want to meet up at this like certain spot and like we like do work and stuff
Oh,
like
okay.
that.
That's cool.
But yeah.
I want that, actually. I want to do work with someone else. Uh, yeah, it's just I only ask because I'm not integrated as much as the sort of whole campus culture at Great Bay as opposed to UNH. UNH has all these spots and whatever, and you meet up with so many people while you're at UNH.
Mm.
I'm sure. Um, there are a lot of things readily accessible that's sort of integrated into this whole UNH ecosystem. And whatever, you go to the library to do work, that's part of the UNH campus. You go to whatever restaurants that they have, whatever dining halls they have, that's part of the UNH campus. At Great Bay, it's sort of, um, I picture it. It's just a building you go to classes for, and that's it. I go to class, I'm out of there, and it's like that whole. Imagine the Great Bay ecosystem is contained in this small ring, whereas I feel the whole UNH ecosystem is like this. It surrounds the whole palm of my hand, as in it's the influence of UNH is just broader and wider, and you get to meet so many more people and whatever. But yeah. Um. Yeah. I don't have much of an emotional connection to the campus as someone might, as you might, because you used to live there. You go to the library with your friends and whatnot after class. Go to eat. Uh, so I'm looking forward to that once I come to UNH next year. Um, let's see. Oh, here's a tough question for you. This might be a little bit of a tough question for you to answer.
Okay.
Um, have any of your friendships changed uh negatively in the past year?
Mm. No,
Really?
actually. Mm. I wouldn't say so, no. Yeah, no.
You wouldn't? Hmm.
Well, actually, maybe like one,
Okay.
but yeah, no. I don't think like overall, and I don't think like, mm, I feel like nothing bad happened. Maybe I'm just like less close to people as I was,
Okay.
but like not in a bad way though. Like we're still on good terms.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Have you?
So when I say negatively, as in
Fight.
no, as in the past year, you know, let's just pick a month. August 2021. There are certain values that I associate as being negative with these certain people. And let's say that it took them a year for them to change that, and they haven't. So that's one way that I picture my friendships changing negatively. As in, they had an entire year to change these bad characteristics, and they didn't. And it kind of, I hold them to a little bit of a lower regard because of that. And you know me, preaching about all the whole self-help, help others type thing, that find your passion and your purpose and leadership and whatever. And, I usually like to make attempts to make it as relatable and articulate it as sufficiently as possible. Try and hopefully get the message across. But some people just brush it off their shoulder like that. As in, oh, they've heard it so many times, I don't want to hear it again. So, yeah, those are how my relationships have changed negatively. Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, like, I feel like, yeah, it's hard in those situations because, like, I feel like sometimes they don't take into account that it hurts you as well.
Hmm.
And, I feel like this, I've talked about this recently actually, but like trying to help others in a way, but like they don't receive it, or they kind of like, because you obviously want the best for them, but they kind of like you said, brush it off, or like they kind of receive it in a negative way. It honestly kind of hurts you then.
Yeah. And because this thing is public, you know who you are. I'll be watching you. Not you. That's just an alert.
Dun 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 dun.
Yeah.
Dun, dun,
So,
dun, dun.
Anybody watching this, if you feel like that statement applies to you, my best advice to you is change those habits. Simply put, I'd like to help you change those habits, but if my advice does not work, then tell me why it doesn't. And then I'll have you on the podcast soon.
Maybe it's like, because I feel like in the type of situation where they like, you said like they brush it off and stuff like that, I feel like maybe if you want to try and like help them and fix them, is approaching it in a way that, or like approaching it in different ways, and not just constantly keep saying the same thing, because they're gonna still brush it off, but maybe like approach it in a way where they can't tell that you're doing it. That makes sense.
Oh yeah. I think I know what you're getting at. Yeah.
Because I feel like, right, if I was in their position, and if obviously if people keep saying the same thing to me, honestly, as much as it is important for if they have these bad characteristics, I feel like if people, as much as, not saying that this approach is bad, right? Because if I had a bad friendship and I'd want to be straight up with them, I'm gonna be like, this is what this is what people think of you. This is what you're, what I feel like, obviously in a nice way, but like their bad characteristics, like how you would approach them. But I feel like there are some people that when they're being told that, they kind of like, maybe they're thinking like, why are they trying to like change me, or like why are they, they keep like saying this, but like they just don't like being told what to do and changing themselves. And I feel like with that instance, and you want the best for them, maybe approach them fix it in a way where you're quote unquote you're teaching them or fixing them or whatever, like, is not as noticeable. If that makes any sense.
Yeah. I've wanted. I'm not sure if I told you this, but I think in a last podcast episode I did. I've wanted to make a video about, video game stuff, but I apply. So maybe the video idea is why you're miserable in Valorant or something. And one of the basic rules that you have to fix is communication. You have to confront your teammates about bad decisions. You have to tell your teammates the direction you're going, state your intentions, tell your teammates, oh, I'm going here. No, I have an idea to go here. Okay, fine, let's find a middle ground or something. But that basic idea of communication, I've been wanting to make, it's an idea, still an idea, but sort of making it relatable to something that all of our friends are playing, like Valorant. Trying to show them that, improving in this game can also have effects on you as a person, inadvertently, type of thing. So that's an idea of what I think what you're trying to address here. Trying to address issues in a way that... Trying to address issues indirectly, rather. If that's the idea. As in, I shouldn't tell you, oh yeah, Hanna, you should be, something direct is, love your neighbor, love all your friends. Your friends depend on you. You should depend on your friends. We are social animals. I could be like, simply saying, hey, how are you? That's it. That's enough to show me that you care about... I cared about your well-being when I asked you how you are. And, it did pique my interest a little bit when you said you're just fine. Not good, not bad, but just fine. And I'm like, oh, okay, if she's doing just fine today, why? Sort of thing. That's the least I can do to show that I care. Because I do care. You know what I mean? And sometimes you just gotta, I don't know, kill people with kindness, I guess.
Indeed, you do.
But, you know what? I think that's a good message to wrap up this whole thing on. Yeah. Thank you for being a frequent guest on this platform. I always always value these conversations. Even, you know what, even though I admit it is hard for me to watch back on some of the more difficult ones I've had on this channel, nevertheless, it's a reminder of how important it is to talk to people, which is also what Pastor JJ talked about in her thing. It's important to, even on this Discord call, it's important to talk to people and you know, check in and have these conversations every once in a while.
Yes, it is.
So I appreciate you as not only a guest, but as a friend. You know, as corny as it sounds, it's true. I believe in it. I believe in what I say. And it's what I believe isn't going to change radically anytime soon. But yeah, if you have anything you'd like to conclude with, socials or whatever, anything you want to say about the world before we wrap this up, here you go.
Love is never wasted, for its value does not rest upon reciprocity.
And on that note, I agree. Ladies and gentlemen, this is number 35. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye!